Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. I'm Bob Bradford. Thank you for visiting the channel. Today we're going to react to Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina. Makes his appearance on The View, and I believe the reason he is on The View is because the women of The View made some disparaging comments about him. He opted to come back on The View and address those comments head on. So let's get right into it.
I was so happy when you tossed your hat into the race. A traditional conservative who's been willing to reach across the aisle. And I think you espouse a hopeful message, which I've missed in our politics for some time. How do you plan to try to reach the near 74 million Americans who supported the former president, many of whom may have been attracted to sort of the brash approach to politics, with your more hopeful?
It's not just many, it's a large part of them. And I think the reason why they're attached to that brash form of politics is because of the way the country was headed prior to him becoming the president. You know, when people hurt, I mean, it takes a long time, I feel like, for Americans to kind of wake up. And I feel like with the level of hurt that the country was going through years prior, you know, with, you know, cost of homes, interest rates, cost of products, food, they reacted in a very harsh way, and they gravitated toward someone like Donald Trump. But let's get back into it.
Full forward-looking message.
I think people are hungry for something hopeful and optimistic. I believe America could do for anyone what she's done for me. Restoring hope, creating opportunities, and defending and protecting the America that we love is such an important combination, especially when I think about restoring hope. I'm a kid that grew up in a single-parent household, mired in poverty. By the time I was in the 4th grade, I went to 4 different elementary schools. As a freshman in high school, I failed 4 subjects. And so I understand and appreciate the importance of hope. One of the ways that we can restore hope in this country is to focus on our education system. We need to have too many kids in poor zip codes trapped in failing schools. I want parents to have a choice so kids have a bigger chance. If we focus on those issues, that, heck, 67% of Democrats, 68% of independents, 70% of Republicans, 72% of African Americans, 66% of Hispanics all agree on some form of school choice, because at the end of the day, my mama loves her child more than she does Republicans or Democrats. So the real combination is, can we find a way to make America better by having every child in every zip code have quality education?
Sorry about that. So I agree with Tim Scott here. I think that, little bit of background. I grew up in a poor area of Philadelphia, grew up there, spent probably the first 15, 16 years of my life in the city of Philadelphia. Actually, I lived in the city up and through my early 20s, and then I moved over to New Jersey. But prior to making that move, I grew up in the city of Philadelphia, in the inner city of Philadelphia. So I can attest, the schools in these large cities do not help children. They just don't. And I don't know if it's due to a lack of resources. You know, a lot of these neighborhood schools, they're just not equipped to provide the quality of education that a lot of the folks in those areas need in order to thrive. So I totally agree with Tim Scott. Now I'm in Florida. We do have school choice. I'm fortunate enough that my child, we were able to choose a wonderful school for my children. And, you know, it works. It works for people.
And frankly, creating opportunities for me, I started off as a small business owner in the late 1990s. It helped me achieve the goals that I had for my life. One of the most important goals of being raised by that single mother was to make sure that she had a chance to get into a garage without having to worry about coming into an apartment where you're looking to your left, you're looking to your right, trying to make sure that you're safe. My goal in life growing up was to make sure that I bought her a house, but more importantly, a garage. And so having the ability to live the American dream and to see these objectives that I set achieved early on in life was what I believe the American dream should be about. Making sure that every single person, based on their character, their grit, and their talent, can rise as high as humanly possible. And I will say that the transformation that I've seen in my life and in South Carolina It is measurable by the millions of lives that are absolutely different today than it's ever been, particularly as I look back at my grandfather's life.
Senator, I wanted to move to Governor DeSantis announced 2 weeks ago that he's also running in 2024. And right now he's sitting, it's early, but second to the former president. One question I have as someone who's more traditional conservative is what does that say about the kind of extremes some of your party has moved to? Because it doesn't reflect conservatism to me.
This is a crock of shit. She's trying to pin one against the other. Not very effective. She's not very effective at all in this. Again, we live in Florida. The reason for moving to Florida is because New Jersey became more like a totalitarian system of government. Banning everything, controlling everything. In Florida, Ron DeSantis, this is the free state of Florida. School choice in Florida. So I find her comments to be very disingenuous. Not surprised. Most of these women on The View are disingenuous in their questioning. So here, let's continue on.
Well, I'll just say that as a guy on the campaign trail in Iowa and New Hampshire and South Carolina, the early voting states, what I found to be really refreshing is that the optimistic, positive message has not been shared in so long. We've been embroiled in battles for so long that when people hear the message, as long as it's anchored in conservatism and you have a backbone, people are interested in engaging in the conversation. As opposed to having a message around populism, having a message around principles is something that's attracting more folks. And the last time I went to Iowa, which was just this past weekend, the size of the crowd has doubled. The enthusiasm's higher than it's been. Every time I go back, it gets better and better. So my hope and my theory is that America has been waiting for someone to show up who's more interested in American progress and the big windshield of the car and less interested in that rearview mirror, except for making sure that we have a compass on where we're going.
I just want to chime in here. I think the idea of conservatism is it's not the same as it once was, where you want to conserve, so to speak, but it's more so less government involved in day-to-day life. And that is not what the left does. The left wants to shove shit down your throat so hard. They want to shove every ideology down your throat so hard, and that's not the conservative way. We welcome everybody, but we're not going to tell people how to live their lives. Nor should you.
Okay.
Senator, I am actually happy that you're here. We have some things in common. You grew up in a single-family household, single-mother household. I grew up with both of my parents, but raised in the Bronx projects amidst a lot of poverty and violence. And you are the first black senator elected in the South since the Reconstruction.
Now, what Sunny is doing, she is trying to, she's the race baiter of the group here. She's the race baiter. So she's gonna lay in on race. She's gonna talk about how how she was impoverished. She's gonna talk about how she's probably the exception to the rule, of success, which is a load of BS. But let's see where she goes. I'm pretty confident I know where she's gonna go with this, but let's see where she goes.
Would be about 114 years. Yet you say that your life disproves leftist lies. And
Yes.
My question to you is, I'm the exception, right? You're the exception. Maybe even Miss Whoopi Goldberg is the exception.
Oh, she's definitely the
But we are not the rule. And so when it comes to racial inequality, it persists in 5 core aspects of life in the U.S. and erased most often by white violence. You have indicated that you don't believe in systemic racism. What is your definition of systemic racism?
Let me answer the question that you've answered.
Or does it even exist in your mind?
Let me answer the question.
She's being condescending there. She's basically saying like, hey, it's there, but we know you don't believe it because you play for the other side.
This way. One of the things I think about, and one of the reasons why I'm on the show, is because of the comments that were made, frankly, on this show, that the only way for a young African-American kid to be successful in this country is to be the exception and not the rule. That is a dangerous, offensive, disgusting message to send to our young people today, that the only way to succeed is by being the exception. I will tell you that if my life is the exception, I can't imagine. I
But
can't
it
imagine.
is.
But it's not actually. Here's
It's been 114 years.
Yeah. So
So she's equating 2023 to the 1800s during the time of slavery. She is a moron, quite frankly.
So the fact of the matter is we've had an African-American president, African-American vice president. We've had 2 African-Americans to be secretaries of the state. In my home city, the police chief is an African-American who's now running for mayor. The head of the highway patrol for South Carolina is an African-American.
Still exceptions.
In 1975, there was about 15% employment in the African-American community. For the first time in the history of the country, it's under 5%.
40% homelessness.
And 50%
of
of
African
the folks in our community.
Yet 13% of the population.
You had the chance to ask the question. I know that I've watched you.
Absolutely right. America is never going to be perfect. But if we can be better than the rest, then that's a win for the world. There are countries around the world today that still enslave African American or Africans, excuse me. There are countries within Africa who still enslave their own people. There are countries around the world who China, for example, will not even allow an African American on a movie poster to be the forefront of that film, Star Wars. Think about that for a moment. Where's the uprise with the Chinese over this? What about the sweatshops over in China, Pakistan, India, Vietnam? Where's the uprise? America will never be perfect. It won't, but we can learn from our mistakes. We can learn from our past. There are folks out there who still want to continue to dwell on the past, although they've never experienced slavery. There's always going to be a level of racism in the world. Doesn't matter who, against what group. I've experienced racism living in the inner city of Philadelphia. Let's continue.
Challenges that we faced 50 years ago and 60 years ago should not be the same challenges that we face today. And here's the way that you measure that. When my mother was born, about 10% of African Americans got a high school degree, diploma. Today, it's over 90%. When you look at the income, success that we've had.
That's an HBCU stat.
Well, listen, HBCU stat is a good one because one of the reasons why I took the funding for HBCUs to the highest level in the
But Trump is so evil. The Republicans are so evil. They funded the HBCU, record funding for HBCUs.
history of the country, and then I helped make it permanent, is because I believe that education is the closest thing to magic in America. So I'm about making sure that our kids have as many opportunities to succeed as possible. It's one of the reasons why
I need an opportunity to succeed because I have to go to they're begging.
We have more time, though.
They're big. You're coming.
I'm just getting started.
I know.
I believe all people can see the success that I've had.
You know, I sat and I listened to everything you said.
Yes.
And I wonder why these conversations don't seem to be held with Republicans. All of the exceptional stuff you're talking about. And one of the reasons we continue to have new exceptionalism is because...
Here's the difference. Democrats can talk, but they don't do anything. They do nothing for their communities. Zero. I lived it. They do zero. Oh, but Bob, you're a white guy. You don't know what you're talking about. I lived in the inner city. I lived there. I grew up there. I was born there. They do nothing for their communities. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic. It doesn't matter. They do nothing for their communities. Nothing.
Because every time folks make 40 steps forward, they get dragged 40 steps back. So how do we, as a nation, because as a nation, we seemingly get on the right track and then we go backwards. So you as a black man and as one of the, are there two black
Yes,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Senators?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Raphael
Or
Warnock.
you mean-
Raphael, that's right.
Three now.
The three.
Booker.
We still count Cory Booker. Okay.
Three. So that-
we've got Booker and Warnock.
Corey and Warnock on one side and me on the other side.
That's three.
Yes.
But you yourself have talked about when the police
Sorry, I was just fixing my camera there. It went into tracking mode, so sorry about that.
stopped you.
Absolutely.
So how can you get your party to stop trying to stop the progression that people are making?
Yeah, so-
Because that's what I come.
Here's the thing. Whoopi is making a very general statement here. She doesn't provide any facts. So I would say to Whoopi Goldberg, if you're going to make a general statement like that, provide an example on top of that. How are the Republicans stopping minorities from moving forward? Give an example.
Complained about when I spoke about. I want you to come out and say, listen, the Republicans have these issues. So
Yeah, I think humans have these issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, the issue of discrimination that I have faced, I assume you face as well, is an issue of the heart. It's not Republicans or Democrats. Frankly, both sides of the aisle can do better job.
Absolutely. Like you can't litigate hate. If someone has hate in their heart, you're not gonna change that person. That person is gonna have to change themselves. You can talk to them. You can try to explain why their opinion is not right, or why, again, they may have a lived experience where it led them to become hateful toward a certain group. But you can't legislate hate. You can make any law you want. People are going to think what they want to think, and they're going to believe what they want to believe.
Anyways, so the truth of the matter is that when you look at progress in the Senate, especially from the Republican side, African-American chiefs of staff on the Republican side, the only African-American female chief of staff was mine. The current only Hispanic chief of staff, who happens to be female, is mine. When you look at the fact that when I helped to rewrite the tax code in 2017, I focused on my growing up experience, which was a single mother. I cut her taxes. Single mothers like mine average
Lived
income around $40,000 by 73%.
But you only one black senator out of 50.
We're talking about progress.
Dems.
So there's only two on the other side. There's only two on the other side.
So
but here,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because I'm going to stand up now.
sit
No, no, no. So the truth is that when you measure success and progress in this nation, one of the things you have to do is look at the statistical realities. We brought African American unemployment, when we cut the taxes, down to the lowest level in the history of this country. For the first time under 6%, it hit 5.4%.
Well, you also gave billionaires a huge tax cut, and that didn't trickle
Oh my God, I just can't with her.
down to
Well,
the working people.
let's take a look at
Senator,
that.
if you want to talk about statistical realities, the statistical reality that we can't even argue with is that African Americans are what, 14, 15% of this country?
13%.
13%.
And they're 3% of the U.S. Senate. That is a statistical reality.
That is only one statistic that in actuality has been improving significantly in the last decade. Let's take a look at the number of African Americans that have served in the Senate in the last 10 years. Mo Cowan from Massachusetts. You have Cory Booker. You have myself. You have Kamala Harris. You have Warnock. So the fact of the matter is that in less than the last decade, we've had about half of all the African Americans who've ever served in the Senate in the last decade, which means that this nation is making measurable progress in real time. And if we focus on that and continue to make progress, we will fulfill the notion that this is the nation that can become more perfect. And what I am
Not
concerned
without
about...
fixing the structures and the systemic racism that it is.
What is systemic racism? What is it? What is it? That term gets thrown out so loosely. Systemic racism. I challenge anyone out there who's watching this video and who's listening to these women on The View speak. Are there any laws out there today that prevent anyone from succeeding, or is there any privilege given to any one particular group? Any law that's written today that provides privilege to any one group over the other? The answer is no. One nation under God. All people created equal. Just remember, the left loves to throw terms out like systemic racism. That's the only way they can keep people divided.
Embedded in
Well, the fact of the matter is that we don't have to agree.
I live in Florida, just so you all know, full disclosure. Everyone lives in harmony down here. Sounds like a cheesy term, but we all live together. Everyone. People help one another. We got hit with Hurricane Ian back in September of 2022. Where was the racism? Blacks helping whites, whites helping blacks, Hispanics helping whites, Hispanics helping blacks, Chinese, Asian, whatever it was. Everyone was helping one another because we were people. We were united.
We don't have to agree on the fact that your definition of specific.
Go up and tell him. Go tell him.
Tell him from the mountain.
We have to go to commercial. We'll come back.
I find it ironic as soon as he goes to make a great point, or he goes to make a point to school these women of the View, he's interrupted by a commercial break.
You're going to stick around. You'll stick around.
All right. Well, that was it. So anyway, I quite frankly do not like the women of the View. I think they're obnoxious. I think they stoke the flames of hate. I feel like sometimes they just don't live in reality. If you go out into the neighborhoods, I used to live in an area in Philadelphia called Kensington. Look at Kensington today. Just Google it. Google it on YouTube. Go on YouTube and type in Kensington, Philadelphia, and you'll be disgusted by what you find. And again, this is in a leftist city run by Mayor Kinney of Philadelphia. They do nothing in the city to clean up the area that I used to live in. So if you like this video, please leave a comment down below. Please like, subscribe. Hope I can earn your trust and earn your subscription today. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Thanks.